Hi readers, it's Lori. Welcome back to my channel, Books, Ink, and Paper. Today is the day I've chosen to talk about books that I am most anticipating right now and that I really want to try to get to before the end of the summer. I have a lot of them that I want to get to before the end of the summer, but these are new releases that have been highly anticipated and that I'm really curious about, and a couple of them are arcs that I've had on my NetGalley shelf for a while and didn't get to, which is always upsetting to me. So I'm including two of them and a couple others, one of which that I've already purchased, and it will be in my haul for July. And then the others I figure I'm going to get in some way or another, that I have no doubt that I'll be able to find them. So let's get started. So the first one is the one that I have hauled, and that is Home Before Dark by Riley Sager. Riley Sager is a new favorite author of mine. I read the Lock Every Door, I think in the beginning of the year, or was that last year? I can't remember. But I really enjoyed it. It was a great kind of horror thriller mix, and it was really well done. Now, Riley Sager is a pseudonym, so the author's name is not really Riley Sager, but it is a man, which I was kind of surprised by because I actually thought, I have some friends named Riley that are women, and I kind of thought that this was a female author, but it is a man writing as Riley Sager, and this is, I think, the third novel written by Riley Sager. Am I right? Fourth. So I've read two already. I would really like to get to the other two, which are The Last Time I Lied and Final Girls. More about that later, but I'm really, really anticipating this. A couple of people I know had an advanced reader's copy of it and love it. So this is a book within a book, which is always interesting. It's a story of a mansion named Bainbury Hall in, I think, the Northeast, and it is purchased by a couple who has a young 5-year-old daughter named Maggie, and they don't stay in the house very long. Some things start happening while they're living there, and they flee the home, and the father writes a best-selling nonfiction novel that really rivals the Amityville Horror in popularity, and Maggie has no memory of any of those things happening. And years later, she inherits the house from her dad and returns to it to fix it up, and believes none of those things existed in that home. So it's the book itself, which was called House of Horrors, inside of the narrative about Maggie. Great fun. Sounds like it'll be fantastic. The next one that I'm really anticipating is The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. There we go. I actually own this on Libro.fm. I got this with one of my credits, and it was one of the anticipated reads that I've been taking a look at since May, I would say. And so I recently decided this was the one I wanted to use my credit to purchase. So this follows, this is, I think, her second novel. Her original novel was The Mother, which also is a book that I now want to read. I looked into her, and it also looks like a fantastic read. But this one has 4.46 stars on Goodreads, which is a really great rating. And it follows two twins, identical twins, growing up in the South. They have kind of a difficult upbringing, and those experiences that they had in the South cause one of them to, well, I think they both end up leaving, but one of them ends up back in the South again with her own child, and one of them ends up living somewhere else. The unique twist on this is that one of them is identifying as Black and raising a Black child. The other one, while also Black, passes for white, and so she is living a life as a white woman, and then marries someone who knows nothing about her past, nothing about her family, and somehow their lives continue to sort of intertwine. And I have heard that this is a well done, rich novel about race, about poverty, about a number of things that are important in understanding how twins can sometimes grow up very differently, how they're still connected, how our history connects us in whatever ways. And I think that then when they come back together in some way, there is a reconciliation that needs to happen of some sort. So I don't know a lot about it, except that it is really getting rave reviews. Britt Bennett is a well known author, even for those two novels being her only novels. She's gotten great acclaim already. She's an award-winning author. Even when she was getting her master's degree, she won the Hopwood Award. The next one is Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia. I have a couple of friends who've read it. It's a recent release, and it is a Gothic novel set in 1950s Mexico, and it's also set inside of a mansion called High Palace, and this woman ends up marrying someone and comes to this place to live, and now is embroiled in this family and is living a more affluent life. And there's something about the house and the people in it, and I don't want to know a whole lot, but it just sounds like perfect to me. It reminds me of Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier, which would be a perfect summer read. And just that cover, I am just stunned by that cover. It's gorgeous. Love it. Silvia Moreno Garcia is from Mexico, but she says she's Canadian by inclination, which is interesting. But she has, I think, written a couple of other books that look very interesting too, but I'm going to start with this one. And it also got a little over 4 stars, 4.04 stars on Goodreads. I don't own Mexican Gothic, so I'm going to have to do a search for that. And I'm going to restart my Libro credits also, because I have used I put it on pause because I had so many building up, and I've used them all now. So I'm going to take a look, and that may be what I use when I restart my membership. We'll see. But super, super thrilled to read that by a new author to me. Number 4 is a little controversial even for me, but I am choosing it because it is controversial, and I have a feeling I will like it a lot because I've liked everything this author has written that I have read, and that is The Book of Longings by Sue Monk Kidd. This is a new release, came out earlier this summer, and it is the story of a woman named Anna, who is a kind of a feminist in this time, and she's writing about women who are neglected and silenced, and she meets Jesus, and they form a relationship based on their similar ideals, spiritually, philosophically ideals, and they get married. And so Anna is the wife of Jesus, and it's a story about her secret writings and about her relationship with him and his family. It sounds very intriguing. I think, if I recall, Sue Monk Kidd has a degree in divinity, as my partner does, so no one better to write a novel about biblical times than Sue Monk Kidd, and about spirituality. And so it sounds like a very unique story. I also found her other novels to be pretty unique. In particular, The Invention of Wings, to me, was a great story told about a very kind of obscure character in women's history. I suspect Anna is not based on a real person, as that novel did put forth some real women who were really working in the field of women's rights and women's right to read and vote and participate in society. So I don't know that this is a real character in history, but it seems fascinating to me nonetheless. I don't own this one either, but I know my library has it in a number of forms because I saw that they actually got it on Overdrive recently. So I know they have it in both ebook and audiobook, and they probably have it in hardback too. I can request it and pick it up. Trying to get to some arcs is important to me, and so I'm going to read The Tenant by Katrin Engberg. This is a Swedish author, I think, or she may be from Norway, which is one of the reasons I chose it. And it's a murder mystery, suspense thriller. It starts with a body being discovered by a neighbor in the apartment. She's been murdered outside of her apartment, and he kind of stumbles upon her literally and falls. And the police begin to investigate, and the actual landlord of the apartment is writing a murder mystery with a plot that's very similar to the appearance of this murder. So, of course, she's a prime suspect, and the detectives are trying to unravel whether she's actually the person who murdered this person or she's connected to the person who murdered this woman in some way. It sounds fantastic, and there's no excuse for me not having read it by now. It's been on my ARC list for a while. I did start it a couple of months ago and just put it aside for some other things, and shouldn't have, because it's been released already, and it has 3.55 stars, so that's a pretty good rating. Over 3.5 is usually very satisfying to me. A new author to me, so also good. So The Last Train to Key West by Chanel Clayton is another novel that I'm highly anticipating, and I love that cover so much. Set in the 1930s in Key West, where three women end up going to Key West on a vacation, and they are arriving there just after the Cuban Revolution. And I think there's some entanglement with their spouses in that regard too. And so there's some danger in their lives. And then a hurricane hits Key West while they're there. So there's danger there too. That is so intriguing, and a perfect time to read that, because it's hurricane season here, and we've been in multiple hurricanes in the time that I've lived in the South since I was a teenager in various places in the South. So Key West is a terrible place to be in a hurricane too, as is Puerto Rico, because you are an island and you're just stuck there. And I lived in Puerto Rico through a couple of hurricanes. Nevertheless, this author grew up with Cuban refugees that came after the revolution. So she's been raised on stories about the Cuban Revolution and probably knows it very, very well. And she has a master's degree in global politics. So there's probably a lot of that coming through in this novel too. But I think I know one person who's at least started it at this point and is enjoying it. I would love to read this. And I'm trying to diversify my reads a little bit. Taking place outside of the US is important to me. I did kind of start reading a lot of men for a while, and I'm still trying to do a little bit of that. But this one is a pretty important part of history that I'm not so familiar with. So I think that will be very intriguing too. And, you know, the hurricane aspect. This one is also an ARC that is on my NetGalley shelf and has been for a bit. I requested it a while ago. And so she also wrote a novel called The Party. So that may be kind of a theme for her. But this one actually follows two couples that I think one is having some infertility issues, one couple, and I don't know a lot about this and don't want to know a ton about it, but what I do know is there's a night of, they named it sexual shenanigans in the Goodreads description of the novel, but you know, apparently they swap partners, and the aftermath of that is kind of not what they had, I guess, expected. I don't know if anybody can really expect what the aftermath of that will be, but and there's also a manipulative teenager involved some way in this plot. And again, because it's a thriller and because it's kind of a really anticipated read that people are devouring and not revealing a lot about, I don't want to say a whole lot, and I don't want to know a whole lot about this novel, but I do want to get to it. And if I could get 2 arcs read in the next month or so, I would be very, very happy, because that is probably going to be another video. What's on my NetGalley shelf still, and what are my plans for tackling that NetGalley shelf? So I haven't done very well with it, honestly, and there are a few that are coming out right now, like back to back to back, some that were put off because of the pandemic and they didn't get to do a proper release, and then they realized they weren't going to get to do a proper release, so they did release them anyway. But these are the ones that are kind of great summer reads that I'm really anticipating and feel like good time to read them, feel like a kind of a August TBR. Maybe I'll try to challenge myself in the month of August to really kind of read as many books as I can in a week, as I'm doing for the Reading Rush. But I didn't include these in the Reading Rush because I had been kind of thinking about this more carefully and had really been anticipating that. And the Reading Rush for me had kind of a different flair for it in the time that I created that TBR. So this TBR is going to be more of maybe a week off readathon for myself, maybe a vacation readathon, because I am kind of thinking about taking some time off, since I haven't so far this year really, and we haven't traveled, and I just feel like that would be a good rest and relaxation for myself, and to really dig in and dive into some of these. So my hope is that I will have read all of these by the end of summer, which is officially around my birthday. So I'll check back in with you then. Maybe on my birthday, I'll check back in and see how we did. Thanks for joining me today. Let me know if any of these are on your anticipated summer reading list as well, or if you've read them. I'm curious about how you feel. Home Before Dark, I've been anticipating for a while, since the beginning of the year, and it just was now released on June 30th. So that's probably going to be at the top of my reading list, I would say, because I ordered it. Looking forward to all of them equally, and can't wait to tell you about the experience, and can't wait to hear if you've already taken a look at them and what you think. If you haven't already, I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel. It really helps my channel get put forward into people's recommended watching list. And if you'll click the bell at the top of the video, I don't mention this a lot, but if you click that little bell at the top of not the top of the video, but the top of the internet bar, you will be notified every time a new video is released. And for me, that's not always regular. So getting a notification is probably your best way of knowing if something new is on the channel. And as always, happy reading. Bye.